Meanwhile, the 55th World Economic Forum annual meeting is underway, and artificial intelligence advances as well as the dangers of rapidly advancing systems are headlining discussions during this year's meeting. This as world leaders grapple with its transformative impact on jobs, economies and societies. Arthur Goldstuck, CEO at World Wide Worx, joins us now with insights on how AI will play a major role in addressing global economic, technological and workforce transitions. Thank you so much for your time, Arthur. Now, looking at the timing of this big AI theme at WEF, are we at a point where the impact of AI is undeniable? And really, if you're not in it, then you're already being left behind.
Hi, Zinati. You're 100% correct, because what the World Economic Forum has shown in their latest study on the future of jobs is that the fastest growing skills for this decade will be led by AI and big data. And then comes networks and cybersecurity, then comes technological literacy, and only then comes creative thinking. Whereas at the start of this decade, there was a big thrust towards encouraging creative thinking and critical thinking. It seems critical thinking is no longer required now that people tend to follow the herd. But certainly AI and big data are not going away. And what they also showed was the fastest declining jobs and the largest growing jobs over the next few years. But interestingly, software developers only rank third in the fastest growing jobs by 2030, because what they've highlighted quite counterintuitively is that the top growing jobs are going to be physical labor, the jobs that AI cannot take over, and that is laborers, agricultural workers, farm workers are number one. And number two, and this should be no surprise to anyone who's started shopping online, light truck or delivery service drivers are going to be the number two fastest growing jobs by 2030. So AI won't result in specific categories of jobs growing dramatically, but if you don't have AI skills, then you in your specific job will be under threat. In other words, someone who has AI skills is going to be in line to take over your job.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, I mean, to note those shifts that are caused by AI in the labor market. And we always are referring to jobs of the future. But now, are significant efforts being made to ensure that those skills are developed now?
We're not seeing significant efforts being made. In fact, the World Economic Forum said in its opening that they really have to focus on creating or upskilling people. And in fact, there's a program that the WF announced a few weeks ago called the Reskilling Revolution, where they want to equip 1 billion people with better education, skills and opportunities by 2030, because they've realized that people who don't have those skills are going to be at a massive disadvantage. Again, not because their jobs will no longer exist, but because someone who can do their jobs better will come along with those skills.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting. I actually even love that, the reskilling revolution. So it's going to be really quite interesting also to see. But also, I mean, it also must bring, you know, a sigh of relief to some people, knowing that AI can't really penetrate into their job, where you're not necessarily in trouble if you are in certain categories of the labor market, if your career is not geared towards AI. Right. I mean, just, you know, with companies, we've seen companies and governments, you know, spending big bucks in terms of investment into AI. Are companies focusing on the monetary returns or non-monetary returns of AI here, or is it just one feeding into the other?
Interestingly, there was a research report released by a Boston consulting group last week, which showed that around 3/4 of companies were investing in AI, but only about 1/4 of them were able to measure a return on investment from AI. So they're essentially throwing money at it because they're scared of being left behind, but very few have actually figured out how to make money from it, or at least to measure the return on their investment.
Okay, so at this point, the impact of AI is not really trackable, or just companies aren't there yet and maybe don't have the right monitoring measures to measure that return on investment?
That's exactly what it is. It's that they don't really have the ability to measure return on investment, or, as you say, they are at this stage not ready to measure that return. So it's wanting to be ready for the AI revolution without quite knowing what they're ready for. But I wanted to mention that I believe that the African continent will be different to, for example, the United States, where there's a massive push for every company to be an AI business, regardless of what the solution is. On our continent, I believe that there's going to be a significant drive towards solving the problems of this continent, and in South Africa, addressing the challenges of this country using AI. Those are the solutions that will gain traction. Even if in the short term, banks, for example, find AI tools that increase their profits, that's not the real long-term benefit.
All right. Yeah, that's actually quite a good one, Arthur. Just before we wrap up the conversation, let's actually talk about risks, because it is not all about this rosy future and high efficiency and all of that. What are the biggest risks within this intelligent age, and are there guardrails being set up to mitigate those?
Interestingly, the World Economic Forum is looking at the risks. They actually produced another report called Global Risks 2025. And one of the risks they point at very significantly is the growing divisions across the globe, the geopolitical wars that we are seeing. And one of the risks that clearly is emerging in the wake of the announcements made by the new American president in the last few days is the fact that AI investment in the West is going to be unfettered by regulatory concerns, or largely unfettered. The guardrails are being removed that the previous president put in place. Whereas from the East, the Chinese AI community is advancing rapidly to not just catch up, but overtake the Americans in terms of innovation. So the scene is set for a geopolitical AI war that could actually damage all sides, because you'll possibly see it being used for cyber attacks. You might see countries holding back or banning export of their technology to other countries, and therefore that then ratchets up the prize, you could say, at the end of the day, where the winner in a particular race is really going to invest heavily to stay ahead.
Yeah, well, very interesting times that we live in. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights there on really the big topic at WEF this week, which is the intelligent age, of course, the impact of AI on world economies. That was World Wide Worx CEO Arthur Goldstuck.